while affirming that additional ambassadorial nominations are expected and that Zamfara State would not be excluded.
The ambassadorial nominees, and to my dismay, I couldn't find Zamfara State on the list. None, both career and non-career. So, I wonder, I wouldn't say that, I believe it must be an oversight by some officials that will have used the hands and eyes of Mr. President, because I'm sure Mr. President knows each and every nook and corner of this country, and he was in my state severally in those few days, in those few years, and will continue to welcome. So therefore, sir, I would want us to draw the attention of Mr. President that Zamfara State needs his, we need also to be included in this ambassadorial nomination. At least for us to be compensated, we need about 3 of these nominees for Zamfara State. So please, sir.
Distinguished Senator.
Sir.
Distinguished Senator Sahabi Yao.
Yes, sir.
Your constitutional point of order is sustained.
Thank you.
I assure you that I will take it up with Mr. President, and it shall be addressed. The list of ambassador nominees is not exhaustive. In other words, it has not been exhausted. The number of countries are so many, and some of them are career ambassadors. The non-career ambassadors are not even as many as they ought to be. So I believe that another list will be coming, and Zamfara State cannot be left out and will not be left out, I assure you. I'm very happy that Mr. President has recognized the family of the late Governor Ajimobi of Oyo State, who was my colleague when I was a governor, and I saw the wife's name here. I start from there to congratulate all the confirmed ambassadors designates today. Because now we are going to have a voice internationally in all the countries that these ambassadors are going to be sent to. I wish them well, and I pray that they will be good ambassadors of Nigeria, reflecting the culture of Nigeria, reflecting the happy mood that Nigerians are known for.
The Senate has rejected a motion sponsored by the senator representing the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, Ireti Kingigbe, seeking to address the multiple governance challenges in Abuja. Raising the motion under the orders 41 and 51, Kingigbe drew attention to what she described as worsening waste management problems, ongoing demolitions by the FCT administrations, unpaid salaries, delayed contractor payments, land allocation disputes, and the depletion of land belonging to the University of Abuja. However, Senate President Godswill Akpabio ruled the motion inadmissible as one of the urgent and national importance, stating that it lumped together too many unrelated issues and differed from earlier consultations with the senator. He advised Kingigbe to withdraw the motion and refile a substantive one, focusing specifically on waste management. The position was supported by the Senate Chief Whip, Senator Tahir Monguno, a Senate Leader Okpeyemi Bamidele, a Deputy Senate President Jibrin Baru, and Senator Sunday Karimi, who faulted the motion on procedural grounds, with Karimi alleging that it was brought in bad faith.
So this motion is dead on arrival because it's not in conformity with this order. You ought to have known the entire content of the motion. So matters like this, as raised by the distinguished Senator Ireti Kingigbe, are matters that should come under substantive motion
on our order paper. There should be motions on notice. And to the extent that she had discussed with the Senate President, and the Senate President
she discussed with the Senate President about waste management.
Not
about
waste
lack
management.
Of, yes, not land allocation.
Okay.
Not payment of salaries.
So definitely, in that words, I want to say that the manner of presentation of the motion itself will go to show that it's in violation of our rule, or it's not consistent with our practice and procedure.
Troubled that sewage systems across the FCT have been blocked and overflowing for nearly 8 months, with accumulated waste and untreated emissions now reaching catastrophic levels, constituting a clear and present danger of epidemics, environmental contamination, and large-scale public health disaster. Aware that the continued failure to clear sewage and waste exposes residents to cholera, typhoid, dysentery, and other waterborne and sanitation-related diseases, and represent an unconscionable breach of the government's duty of care to citizens. Alarmed that in several instances, even where land disputes are subject to ongoing litigation, the Honorable Minister of the Federal Capital Territory has allegedly proceeded with demolitions, revocations, and reallocations in flagrant disregard of substituting court processes, thereby eroding the rule of law, contemptuously disregarding judicial authority, and violating the Land Use Act and other extant laws.
It's time for us to withdraw this motion.
It's important for us to get to the root of it.
Has to be withdrawn.
Please, sorry.
Let her come back with it. No, this motion has to be withdrawn.
President, having initially called for investigation of the matter based on the principle of audi alteram partem, but after listening carefully to the remarks of the President of the Senate, to the extent that he is not fully briefed of the content of the motion, I still rely on Order 41 to say that you cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand. It is bad, and it is incurably bad. Therefore, Mr. President, I urge my sister, Senator Eriti Kingibe, to withdraw that motion because it is in flagrant violations of our rules. And there is nothing to discuss before the Senate based on our rules, because you cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand. It is bad, and it is incurably. The operating word here is incurably bad, and therefore it cannot proceed.
Motions that tend to they don't focus on the subject matter. Please, I think you may need to have private discussions with some senators, because if you are having a matter of urgent national importance on waste management or waste disposal, you stick to it. You focus on it. That is our rule. But when you are asking us to go into payment of salaries, payment of wages, allowances, then waste management, then you go into demolition of property, you go into land management, you go into this. This minister has a president. The president will direct the minister on activities, and he will be getting approvals from the president from time to time. I think this is too much. This is no longer. Will you describe this as a matter of urgent national importance? Please speak on what speak on what this paper is all about. You may wish to withdraw your motion.
The House of Representatives has constituted a 7-man committee to investigate allegations that gazetted copies of 4 tax laws were altered after being passed by the National Assembly and assented to by President Bola Tinubu. President Bola, the probe followed a matter of privilege raised at the plenary by Honorable Abdul Samad Dasuki from APC, Sokoto, who alleged the discrepancies between the versions of the Tax Act passed by the lawmakers and the gazetted copies currently in circulation. Announcing the panel at Thursday's plenary, the Speaker of the House, Abbas Tajuddin, named Mukhtar Betara as the chairman, with Idris Wasai, James Falake, Sada Soli, Iduma Igarwe, Frederick Agbedi, and Ben Babachimi Benson as members. The committee is expected to submit its report within 1 week for further legislative action. In a related development, the Speaker Abbas disclosed that President Tinubu has written to the National Assembly seeking approval to address a joint session on Friday, being December the 19th, for the formal presentation of the 2026 national budget. And meanwhile, the 4 lawmakers from Rivers State have defected to the All Progressive Congress APC. Umez Rike Manochim moved from the Labour Party, and while Boniface Merengwa Awaji Abiante and Boma Goodhead defected from the People's Democratic Party. The Speaker read their defection letters on the floor of the House with the lawmakers, citing internal leadership cries within the PDP. The latest defection deepened the growing shift of Rivers State lawmakers to the ruling party following the recent high-profile defections in the state.
I write to crave the kind indulgence of the House of Representatives to grant me the slot of 1400 hours on Friday, 19 December 2025, to formally present the 2026 budget to a joint session of the National Assembly. The leadership has unanimously agreed that a committee should be set up immediately to look into the matters that were raised and many others. And in that respect, I'm happy to announce to you that the following members have been appointed to the committee. Honorable Mukhtar Aliu Betera, Chairman. Honorable Ahmed Idris Wasai, Member. Honorable Sada Soli, Member. Honorable Abiodun James Faleke, Member. Honorable Igariwe Idumo Enwo, Member. Honorable Fred Abedi, Member. Honorable Babajimi Benson.
The House of Representatives has concluded a close-by-close deliberations and proposed amendments to the 2022 Electoral Act as part of the preparations for the 2027 general elections. Lawmakers consider the report on the House Committee on Electoral Matters, debating several contentious provisions and proposing amendments and repeals where necessary. A key resolution centered on Section 51, subsection 2 of the Act on overvoting. The House, however, rejected the committee's proposal for outright cancellation of votes in case of overvoting, resolving instead that presiding officers should deduct excess votes proportionately from the total votes of all participating political parties. The House also agreed that any presiding officer found culpable in overvoting would be liable to prosecution. The lawmakers further debated provisions aimed at curbing the practice of aspirants submitting their names to more than one political party for the elections.
The Electoral Act 2022 remains one of the most progressive electoral law in our history, and the amendment proposed under this Electoral Bill 2025 are designed to consolidate its strengths, address observed gaps, and improve implementation without undermining the stability of the existing legal framework. I want to assure Nigerians that the House Committee on Electoral Matters has conducted its process with utmost transparency and diligence.
At the committee level,
you
there was
discussed
no merit to it at the committee level. Likewise, many other bills too.
Well, okay, not everyone that passed through second reading made it to the report.
Not everyone made it
because
back.
During public hearing and all that, some were dropped.
Yes.
Okay.
Of the presiding officer, the officers at that polling unit where this overvoting takes place should be prosecuted. If it is in the law, it will deter us enough. So I submit, sir, that we take a difference between the accredited voters and the actual votes. The difference, let everybody bear the pains. Spread it across the political parties that are there. Everybody have the pains. Then you prosecute the officers. Next time, they will not do it.
Sharing what amounts to illegality equally, I don't think it's a solution. Let us allow what we have. If there is overvoting, cancel that unit and go back to election within 48 hours. The person who is popular in that unit will still win the election, sir. That's my position, sir.
In that polling unit and shall be liable to prosecution in accordance with the provisions of Section 145 of the Act.
Who shall be liable?
Sir?
The presiding officer that has done the...
Yeah, this is the recounting. So that proportionately, he would deduct the vote proportionately across the political parties.
And after that, be punished?
Yes.
Okay.
Because he allowed it.
Okay. Any...
To subsection 5, when you mention only members whose names are contained in the register shall be eligible to vote. But now what I'm saying is that with that section, members that are of dual political parties should not be allowed to vote. So I think the amendment you make, I think, is more proper.
So all this one we are going round and round is not the issue. The mischief is that at one point in time, can a member exercise his right of association in this multiple form? Or should he accept one and stay with that? That's the question.
The House of Representatives has urged the federal government to leverage existing bilateral relations within the ECOWAS and African Union framework to facilitate the cooperation, a mutual understanding and expeditious clearance of the Nigerian military aircraft and the release of its 11 personnel. The resolution of the House followed a motion of public importance sponsored by Honorable Ojuawo Adeni and 3 other lawmakers during the plenary. The House urged the Office of the National Security Advisor to coordinate interagency communications and ensure that the national security considerations are addressed without escalation. The House also urged the Committee on Foreign Affairs, Defense, Air Force and National Security to jointly interface with the Ministry of Defense to ensure a prompt resolution and release of the aircraft and its crew detained in Burkina Faso.
The House should also note there is no verified evidence that the aircraft violated the airspace or that was intercepted or was compelled to land by hostile action. The matter is currently being addressed through the diplomatic engagement by the relevant Nigerian government ministries and agencies in accordance with international norms and bilateral relations. The speed and the spread of false narrative has the potential to undermine Nigeria's diplomatic standing, strain regional relations, and erode public confidence in national institutions. The House is concerned that prolonged uncertainty surrounding the aircraft and its personnel could negatively affect national morale, civil-military confidence, and Nigeria's image within the sub-region. Swift, coordinated, and transparent action is necessary to safeguard national security interests and uphold Nigeria's sovereignty.
The Lagos State government has unveiled Lashma Assistance in Distress, a new emergency healthcare initiative designed to provide a swift, coordinated and affordable medical response for residents under the Ilerico Health Insurance Scheme. Speaking at the official launch in Ikeja, the Special Advisor to the Governor on Health, Dr. Kemi Ogunyemi, described the initiative as a major milestone in the implementation of social health insurance in the state. She said the Lashma Aid was developed pursuant to the executive order signed by Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu on July the 16th, 2024, which made health insurance mandatory for Lagos residents. Ogunyemi, while explaining the operational framework of Lashma Aid, said that the residents can access emergency services through the state emergency numbers 767 or 112, while the medical emergencies can also be reported via the Lagos State Ambulance Service. She noted that the Lagos State has expanded the Bus fleet with ambulance bikes and advanced mobile intensive care units to improve response times, especially in traffic congested areas. The chairman of the Lagos State Health Management Agency, Dr. Adedayo, said that the Lashma Aid represents a new approach to emergency medical care in the state. He explained that the initiative was created to address gaps in emergency response by providing up to 48 hours of stabilization care for active Ilerico enrollees and vulnerable residents.
With Lashma Aid, Lagos now has a unified state-led emergency care platform for Ilerico enrollees and the vulnerable that guarantees timely response, coordinated care, and ensure financial protection at the point of crisis. Every single second counts in an emergency, and the difference between life and loss is often access. Access to help, access to care, and access without fear of paying catastrophic bills. At this junction, I appeal to all healthcare providers and ambulance service operators in the state to support this commendable initiative and cooperate fully with the Lagos State government to ensure the success of Lashma Aid, thereby preventing avoidable loss of lives. Trust, integrity, and honesty should guide all our actions at all times.
You found one thing on the account that you have no money, on the account that you have no insurance. If you have no insurance, they will still attend to emergency only at that point. To stabilize you at any facility, the Lashma will pay for that because the governor has been magnanimous to say everybody should be treated. But you have to register afterwards, once you are stabilized. So I will encourage our people to not wait for that to happen. Just register for Ilera Eco, and then if anything happens, emergency, you will be treated by any hospital in Lagos State. Then you can now follow up how do you settle the bill. But don't be afraid of turning up in any facility. Emergency care, Lashma Aid will take care of the payment for the emergency. But then at that point, you'll be registered as well to come on the Ilera Eco scheme. The benefits are so many. People into road accidents, they can be stabilized, taken to any hospital, they will not be turned down. Emergency of epilepsy, people who have sickle cell crisis, incidents of serious poisonous snake bites, you can turn to any hospital for emergency care.
What should we do? Who do we call? How will those who we will call respond? I'm delighted to inform you that Lashma Aid has been designed to provide clear answers to these critical questions. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Lashma Aid is not just about ambulances and approvals. It is about saving critical minutes and preserving lives. It is about ensuring that in moments of crisis, our Ilera Eco enrollees and the vulnerable of Lagos State are not left unattended to due to financial barriers, confusion, panic, or fear, whether at the scene of an emergency, at home, or even in the office. Our swift response can protect their lives, as the adage says, a stitch in time saves 9. Lashma Aid also brings together hospitals, ambulance service providers, and our internal emergency coordination unit into a single coordinated pathway for pre-hospital care, inter-facility transfer, and early stabilization.
The chairman, Alimusha Local Government, Akinpelu Ibrahim Johnson, has called on all 777 local government areas in the country to uphold transparency, accountability, and value for money procurement, describing them as the critical pillars for effective governance. Johnson made the call during the 2026 procurement retreat, noting that the initiative was designed to strengthen procurement processes, reinforce compliance with statutory regulations, and enhance efficiency across all departments and units involved in procurement activities. Speaking on the theme, Understanding Public Procurement Law and Procedures, the Council Boss said the retreat provided an opportunity to review procurement performance from the previous year and highlighting achievements, delays, bottlenecks, and lessons learned. The retreat brought together procurement officers, head of departments, project management, and financial officers to assess existing practices, identity gaps, and adopt the best practice strategies aimed at improving service delivery. Participants were reminded that procurement remains central to the project's execution in public trust, stressing that strict adherence to due process must remain a non-negotiable standard in public administration.
Governance has to do with procurement. If your procurement is good, your people will enjoy your service or your services, because procurement entails how your pricing, your projects, the money that is going to be expended on any project. And so we are here to learn on how to procure both the goods and services. That is the reason why we are here. Procurement retreat is different from the budget retreat. Budget retreat, yes, we are going to do our budget retreat. We want to look at 2026. We are going to look at the physical possibilities for 2026. What are we going to do to our people? We have done the leads, which is a stakeholders meeting. We have gotten their needs. It is now left for us to sit down, discuss about it, apportion money, and return it back to the legislative arm for approval.
Today's event, which is the procurement retreat, we help the budget officer to make proper budget for 2026. That is the coming year. This coming year, the procurement plan we did today, I mean the events, the retreats we did today, we help the local governments to plan well for 2026.
Following the devastating defeat suffered by the Oyo State chapter of the All Progressive Congress in the 2019 and 2023 governorship election, attributed mainly to loss of popular support and internal divisions, Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has urged its members in Oyo State to embrace unity and work assiduously to wrest power from the ruling People's Democratic Party in the 2027 governorship election. The president gave these advice at the 8th annual Senator Abiola Ajimobi Roundtable and the 76th Poshmo's birthday, where he was represented by the Executive Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Zacchaeus Adedeji. The event also brought together distinguished Nigerian scholars and political figures from far and wide to reflect on the life and times of an astute politician whose quest for development sometimes attracted criticism. The guest speaker, Ibrahim Gambari, outlined the numerous challenges confronting the African sub-region, emphasizing that only through diplomacy and collective action can Africa truly attain true prosperity. The gathering also offered a veritable platform for intellectual discourse and knowledge sharing, as well as reflections on the indelible memories of the life and times of a great Ibadan son. The former legislator and two-time governor, Senator Abiola Ajimobi, who would be solely remembered for his contributions to the state development and his relatively young leadership.
The themes of today's events: pathways to electoral credibility, reforming political parties, re-engineering citizens, and restoring trust in Nigeria's democracy. This really needs no further elaboration. However, suffice it to state that it is a consolidation of a previous critical theme anchored by the erstwhile INEC chairman, Professor Ataru Jega.
But one thing that I speak to you about today is a concerned citizen, as a concerned citizen who watched with great alarm as voter turnout has dropped from 65% in 2003 to a troubling 25% in the 2023 election. From, I repeat, 69% voter turnout in 2003 to 25% in 2023 election. And therefore, I invite us not just to listen to a lecture.
If Senator Ajimobi, a successful politician, is not an intellectual, how come that his foundation is about this kind of event? For me, this constitutes an intellectual discourse.
He belonged to that generation of leaders who believed that politics must have structure, discipline, and direction. Senator Ajimobi governed in a difficult environment. He confronted entrenched interests. He pursued order where disorder had become normalized.
Your husband was a devoted family man, blessed with warm and witty sense of humor. May the Almighty God continue to grant his soul eternal rest. Let me conclude with these parting words to the APC leaders and members in Oyo State. The best tribute and honor you can all give to our departed statesman is to unite and strengthen the party to take over the reign of government in the state in 2027. This is achievable and this must be achieved.
A former justice of the Supreme Court in person of Justice Helen Morenikeji Ogunwumiju has called for a reimagining of access to justice in Nigeria that eliminates practices with negative impacts on women and children. Justice Ogunwumiju made the call while speaking at the 25th anniversary of the Women Advocates Research and Documentation Center held in Lagos. She noted that the justice must go beyond the courtroom to include economic justice, community-driven reforms, and stronger protection against domestic violence and child abuse. Speaking on the theme, Breaking Barriers, Building Futures with Women and Girls in Nigeria, Reimagining Justice for All, the former president of the National Association of Women Judges in Nigeria highlighted the critical roles of the judiciary, legislature, and executive in promoting the gender-responsive justice. She also called for the deployment of technology to improve inclusion and enhance the legal awareness. The founding director of WOTC, Dr. Abiola Akiyode Afolabi, reflected on the organization's impact over the past 25 years, citing its contributions to legal reforms, the promotion of women's leadership, and efforts to challenge cultural norms and the hinder gender equality. The former WOTC chairman, Professor Akin Oyebode, commended the center's sustained advocacy and called for continued national and international support to build a more just and inclusive society.
Society cannot progress when half of its population is left behind, unheard, unprotected, or undervalued. Nigeria stands at a pivotal moment. We as a nation, we are rich in talent, culture, resilience, and brilliance, especially the brilliance of our women and girls. Yet, too many still wake up each day navigating systems that do not fully protect them, structures that do not hear them, and institutions that do not serve them equally. To build a future that works for everyone, including women and girls in Nigeria, we must start by reimagining access to justice, not as a privilege, not as an afterthought, but as a fundamental promise of nationhood.
We have not achieved the ultimate in terms of full recognition for Nigerian womanhood, because we are still at the throes of passing a law that will create more seats for women in the National Assembly. We are far removed from Rwanda or even Namibia, because we are yet to have a female president, not to talk of a female vice president. But even before we get to president and vice president, let us have a commensurate number of women in our legislature.
Oppression is never quiet, and we need to know that. It is always very loud, organized, structural, and very unapologetic. It speaks through laws, custom, institutions, and everyday violence. To confront it, you need resistance. You cannot be timid. You cannot be isolated. And it cannot and never be accidental. Resistance must also be organized, deliberate, collective, and sustained. I believe that movements do not emerge by chance. They are born out of urgency, out of pain, out of a refusal to accept injustice as normal. And that was the principle.
As Nigeria's national mechanism for women's advancement, the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development remains a steadfast partner committed not only to collaboration, but to building a credible, professional, and results-oriented gender ecosystem. Together, under the Renewed Hope Agenda, and in partnership with the women and professionals gathered here today, we will continue to raise standards, strengthen institutions, and build a Nigeria where every woman, every child, every family is seen, heard, protected, and empowered to lead.
The Nigerian Medical Association, NMA, has advocated the need to close the funding gaps in the health sector across the 36 states of the Federation, calling on the state governments to respect the Abuja Accord by earmarking at least 15% of their annual budgets for health. The immediate past chairman of the NMA Ogun State chapter, Dr. Azim Adekunle Ashimi, made the call in Lagos on Thursday while speaking at the opening of a two-day dialogue with policymakers on the policy landscape for sexual and reproductive rights, organized by the Women Advocates Research and Documentation Center. Dr. Ashimi appealed to the 36 State House of Assembly to ensure that their oversight functions adequately cover all areas of health facilities in their respective states. He also called for the repeal of obsolete laws to address emerging and contemporary issues affecting the healthcare system in the country. The Speaker of Jigawa State House of Assembly, Haruna Aliyu, admonished the state legislatures to strengthen their oversight roles and ensure that yearly budgetary allocations to the health sector are fully and judiciously expended.
We should have a repeal or amendment of all these colonial era laws that holds back the medical profession, especially in the areas of, people who have reasons to have abortion, especially people who are raped, incest, and mental health issues, so that we stop losing our younger ones, our women, to the cold hands of death every year. And lastly, we're encouraging the lawmakers to make sure that their oversight functions are carried out to the extent that they follow the money to the primary healthcare centers and ensure that these monies are judiciously used to the betterment of the healthcare system of Nigeria.
We still advocate
to speakers of the states, houses of assembly, for them to emulate or to do the necessary thing on this health sector issue. Because without health, nothing will be done correct. Unless you are, and even not even child, and even nutrition is part of. It's very, very important. Like in my assembly, each and every member contributed 10 million to nutrition. We purchased RUTF this year for 300 million, and we donated to primary health care. So actually anything, especially this law, anything in the law, we'll go and look at it critically, we'll do the needful, something that will help in achieving health coverage. Yes.
The data, the statistics, because I believe that if they understand how their situation is, when they go back to their various state house of assembly, when it comes to the budget review sessions, they would see the importance for them to put more money and more of their resources in issues of health and sexual and reproductive health, to be precise. The ratio for doctors to patients in Nigeria is not proportionate at all. So we don't even have that levity to say we want to choose who attends to your child or your wife. We cannot decide. We don't have that levity at all. So we'll need to create the awareness on both levels, on the level of the men and also on the level of the government. Then they can also find how they would impute this into the laws. Everything can be addressed at the lawmakers level. So maybe they can institute laws, develop laws that would address issues of the men choosing who will attend to their children, because at the end of the day we all have one goal, which is to reduce deaths of women in Nigeria.
The president of the 1985 set of the University of Lagos College of Medicine alumni in person of Kofo Ogunyakin has reaffirmed the group's commitment to giving back to its alma mater, describing the institution as the foundation of their professional excellence. Ogunyakin said these are the 40th anniversary reunion of the set, where the alumni donated a solar power system to the college and completed the refurbishment of the female hostel, Aliakilu Hall. And according to him, the reunion was not only a time to reconnect, but also to strengthen collaboration with the university's leadership. Earlier, the provost of the College of Medicine, Professor Ademola Remus, noted that while the government funding for tertiary education continued, sustained alumni intervention had helped the college remain accredited and functional. The Vice-Chancellor of UNILAG, Professor Folashade Ogunshola, applauded the alumni for their tangible contributions and urged them to deepen their engagement, particularly in addressing the growing brain drain in the health sector. Professor Ogunshola disclosed that the recent recruitment efforts for the residency position has yielded a very few applicants, underscoring the scale of the challenge.
As you might know, many of us are actually in academics, and there are different programs that different people have coordinated over the years. The Vice Chancellor has given a mandate, like a road map. It's always good when things can be synchronized with the needs of the institution. And I think the template that the Vice Chancellor is creating would be one that would be in the future easy for our members who have excelled in different fields of academics to participate in the future.
A lot of good things are still happening. We have challenges, no doubt. You can help with some of the challenges, no doubt. But this is not a place where anybody should denigrate. It's your alma mater, it's for those who are members of the nation, it's your country, and we must do the best to uphold the best values that we have.
One thing for sure is that one of the major drivers of people leaving is the poor working environments, the poor remuneration. And till that is fixed, I'm not sure we can do that. But we can also use technology more and reach out to our alumni. I mean, all these people are in the health professions. So imagine if we can have access to 1 hour a week from each person. We will cover quite a lot of things. So I am optimistic that we can get better. Can we get to where we're going in the short term? Probably not, but we may be able to at least stabilize.
Idiaraba gave me a leverage and catapulted me into a place where at age 64, I am still working in emergency medicine because of the foundation that I got in Idiaraba. If I had to do it over again, I promise you I will be a student in Idiaraba. The values, the things that have been taught, they never left me. So if you want your child to be a doctor in Nigeria, I suggest you just let them come to Idiaraba.
As the VC said, no alumni has brought so many numbers of people. We are over 100 that are attending this meeting from all over the world. And part of the project we are doing is that we are doing solar for the code room, for the student union building, and for the reading areas within the campus. Also, we are renovating the toilets, and we are doing some painting, repainting of the hostels. So that's what we think we should do. But I believe we are still going to do more. Our people are ready to do more. We are going to start doing mentorship. And we have people, the VCACs, yes. And so we still have some people that are professors all over. And you know, the electronic things are make education so easy. And some of them are ready to be lecturing from there. So I'm so excited to be here.
Okay. Your name once again for record purpose.
Dr. Bumi Omoshende.
Thank you so much.
The Intergovernmental Action Group Against Money Laundering in West Africa, JERBA, has identified the largely informal nature of the West African economy as a major driver of the human trafficking market in the region, estimated to be worth about $450 billion annually. This disclosure was made at the opening ceremony of the 3 days joint GIBA ECHO's Gender Development Center, a regional forum on women and transnational organized crime. The human trafficking risk in Africa, in West Africa, holding in Lagos. The Director of the General of JERBA, Edwin Harris, who was represented by the Acting Director of Policy and Research, Dr. Jeffrey Isima, stated that the West Africa remains highly porous to trafficking due to numerous challenges, including the persistent domestic and cross-border child trafficking. He noted that traffickers not only exploit human and natural resources, but also take advantage of the region's weak financial systems. Harris added that while women and children constitute a significant proportion of victims of human trafficking globally, women are also sometimes involved as perpetrators of the crime. The Minister of the Women Affairs and Social Development, Iman Sulaiman Ibrahim, represented by the Assistant Chief Community Development Officer in the ministry, in person of Udeme Insisak, underscored the importance of the forum and outlined the ongoing efforts by the federal government to combat the human trafficking.
But the most part, West Africa, payments are made by cash. People prefer to take cash. And when you take cash, when you make payments by cash, you are evading traceability. It's difficult to keep track of the movement of money. And if anything goes wrong with that transaction, it's difficult to trace who bought, who sold. That's what I said. So informality and cash transactions facilitate money laundering and other financial crimes because it's difficult to combat crime in such an environment. What we're doing to deal with it is to, first of all, help the Nigerian government, in this case Nigeria, to enhance financial inclusion and the cashless policy to make it take good effect so that people are able to do huge or massive transactions through electronic payments like the transfer that you talked about, which is easier to trace if anything goes wrong.
It is for this reason that the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria continues to prioritize gender-responsive security governance, protection of vulnerable populations, and the strengthening of systems that prevent, detect, and disrupt organized criminal activities. Distinguished participants, the overall objective of this forum aligns fully with our national and regional priorities to deepen the understanding of money laundering and terrorism and terrorist financing risk associated with women in the context of transnational organized crime with a specific focus on human trafficking.
Women and girls remain particularly vulnerable within these evolving trafficking typologies, facing disproportionate risk of sexual exploitation, forced labor, domestic servitude, and related forms of abuse. These risks are further compounded by irregular migration pathways, porous borders, socioeconomic inequalities, and limited cross-border data exchange, as recognized under UNTOC Articles 5, 7, and 10, and reinforced by the ECOWAS Plan of Action Against Trafficking Persons. Effective responses require coordinated criminal justice, financial investigation, and international cooperation mechanisms.
And that's it on the local scene. We now take a short break. When we come back, we'll take some stories from the foreign scene.